Nigeria is endowed with vast reserves of solid minerals, including but not limited to precious and base minerals, industrial minerals, energy minerals, and metals. The country was a major exporter of tin, columbite, and coal in the 1960s to early 1970s. However, activities in this sector began to nosedive considerably by the mid-1970s due to a number of political and economic factors, especially the significant focus on crude oil production as a major source of foreign exchange for the country. Now, the contribution of mining and quarrying to real GDP in the first quarter of this year stands at 9.67%, higher than the growth rate of 8.59% and 7.49% recorded in the first quarter of 2017 and the fourth quarter of 2017. There is no doubt this sector has great potentials to become a major source of revenue. But what are the issues? Let's talk to the chairman, mining group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Babatunde Alatishe. Good morning, Mr. Alatishe. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Well, at the beginning of the present administration, the solid minerals sector was a high priority for the government. How much progress has been made so far?
Well, the government obviously has they've shown a lot of interest and a lot of commitment towards the improvement of the sector. The first thing they did was to set up a roadmap that the Federal Executive Council approved. And the roadmap obviously highlights both short-term and long-term goals for the mining industry. As we all know, implementation of dreams and plans is the real crux of the story. So we're still in the middle of implementing those things that they've laid down.
Now, talking about this roadmap, can you share your perspective on them? What are the content?
Okay. The real thing that we Nigerians need to be concerned about, first of all, the government has isolated 7 strategic minerals, 7 minerals that are of national interest and they feel would, quickly jerk up the economy. And these are coal, lead, zinc, barite, iron ore, limestone, and gold. Now, if these 7 minerals are focused on properly by the federal government, stuff like unemployment will be a thing of the past. Proper internally generated revenue for states will be a thing of the past. And literally, Nigeria can solve most of its problems from harnessing these minerals. I'll give you a typical example. Everybody knows about the quagmire surrounding Ajaokuta Steel Complex. Now, everybody's talking about finishing the complex, but nobody's talking about the important part, which is the feedstock that goes into the blast furnace to create the steel we need. I mean, obviously, as an industrialized nation, we can't be an industrialized nation without steel. Now, if the NBS, that's the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics report for 2007, says the annual production for iron ore is 1,500 tons. That's 1,500 tons. Now, the blast furnace at Ajaokuta Steel Complex needs 2.3 million tons to create 1.3 million tons of steel. And the whole country is doing 1,500 tons. So if that blast furnace comes on, or we go live, or they complete, the project, the Ajaokuta Steel project, how are we going to feed it with iron ore ingots? Iron ore, really. So this is where, you can solve Nigeria's youth unemployment problem. You can get these young, unemployed, strong chaps to get into these mines and get the raw iron ore we need to feed the blast furnace. That's one. 2, let's look at the other ones. Barite, real quickly. Barite is a mineral used for drilling oil and gas. And we all know Nigeria is an oil and gas.
So these minerals you're mentioning are the strategic...
The 7 strategic minerals that the government has isolated and said, look, these are important. Nigeria has about 44. We are highly blessed with all sorts of minerals, like you earlier said, from industrial to construction to energy to you name it. We have it all. We're blessed. But like I said, they focus on this 7. Now, we're talking about barite. Barite is used for drilling in oil and gas. IOCs import these things in huge quantities and they spend tons of foreign exchange investment. These things are locally available. In Nasarawa, Nasarawa is a hotbed for barite. Now, we at the Chamber, we have Chamber members that have barite exploration companies. Why are they not being patronized? You know, the roadmap talks about import substitution, things that we're importing that you can substitute with what we have here locally. Why is that not being done? Why can't an intervention fund be created specifically for barite and have NNPC or NAPEMS, which is the acquiring arm of NNPC?
Is funding the major issue? What are the issues there?
Funding is the #1 issue in mining. Nobody understands mining. So the first problem we have to face is educating the bankers, the financial institutions, about the processes that go into mining from end to end. I don't know why they're oblivious of it.
How much support do you get from banks, I mean, the mining sector?
Well, honestly speaking, I would say 0 to 5%. Honestly speaking, I'll be very frank with you. Now, the government created 3 different kinds of funds available for the mining sector. The first one is the Mining Intervention Fund, which is part BOI, part Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. I think each of them came up with 2.5 billion, and there's a 5 billion, naira intervention fund for miners, where artisanal miners can get 10 million naira, and small-scale miners can get 100 million naira. Now, we have a bunch of our chamber members that have applied for this, but none of them are successful. They're still waiting, and the administration is almost over. Then we have the Mine Diver, which is basically an exploration fund, which is also available for everyone. We also have members of our chamber that also have applied to it, and we're still waiting. Then there's the ESF, which is the Export Stimulation Facility, which is open to anybody exporting. It's from Nexim Bank. It's a CBN fund as well. We've also applied for that, and nobody else is calling. Now, the key thing is, what are the criteria for eligibility? They need to spell this out and let everybody know.